Hi friends, this week we have another story, and it's also from the book of Acts, and it kind of picks up close to where we left off. When Stephen died, there was a man there. His name was Saul, and Saul really did not like the believers. He thought they were so wrong. He wanted to go around and put all the believers into jail. And so he asked for permission from the high priest and the leaders if he could go on a special trip to a different city called Damascus, because he knew there were more believers there, and he thought he could put them in jail too. And on the road to Damascus, something amazing happened. There was this blinding flash of light, and Saul could not see. And then he heard this voice, and the voice said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Persecution means treating somebody badly on purpose. No, Saul was persecuting the believers, but he didn't know who was talking. It didn't make sense to him because he knew that blinding flash of light must be God. So he said, "Lord, who are you?" And the voice said, "I am Jesus, who you are persecuting." And for 3 days he was blind, and he didn't eat or drink anything. Not because he was blind, but because he was shocked and probably really sad and confused and horrified for what he had been doing. And then it says in Damascus there was another man named Ananias. Now Ananias was a believer, and he was influential in the church. People listened to him. And God spoke to Ananias in a vision and told him that Saul was here in Damascus, and to go find him and to pray for him to receive his sight and be healed. And Ananias said, "But I've heard of this man, and he arrests everyone who believes in Jesus. Is this a good idea?" So Ananias went, because that's what he was told to do, and I bet he was really scared. And he went and he found Saul, and he laid his hands on him and said, "Jesus told me to come and heal you." Then immediately, something like scales fell off of Saul's eyes, and he could see again. He was healed. Amazing. And then it says that he goes on to go out into Damascus and to preach about Jesus and tell everyone that Jesus is the Son of God. And people in Damascus were like, "Wait a minute, we've heard of this guy. Isn't this guy the one that puts the believers into jail? What happened to him? He's acting different." Because now he was a believer. Everyone was so amazed. And I'm pretty amazed, aren't you? What a wild story. First of all, it's totally wild that Ananias was brave enough to take that risk and go and find Saul and go into the house and put his hands on him. Ananias was at the top of Saul's list for people to get and throw into jail. And he knew it. He still listened to God, and he still went. And the story is amazing because of Saul. Saul was so sure he was right. He knew everything. He had learned the whole Old Testament. He knew all the stories and all the prophets and everything, and he knew he was right, and the believers were wrong. Oops. Until he found out he was wrong, and the believers were right. And what did he do? Did he just go dig a cave and hide in it because he was so embarrassed? No. Did he start yelling and screaming at God about, "You should have told me sooner"? No. Did he have a pouty fest? Just sit there and refuse to say anything to Ananias because he didn't like to be wrong? No. He didn't do anything like that. He let Ananias come and pray for him. He asked Ananias to please baptize him. And then he went out in the streets and preached about Jesus. Saul was willing to admit he was wrong. That is is so hard to do sometimes, isn't it? But Saul didn't let that stop him. That shows some humility. Humility is believing that you're not the best and the most amazing, and admitting you can be wrong sometimes. And being okay with it. Sounds like Saul was humble. So your challenge this week is to admit when you are wrong. It's tricky sometimes, right? We really want to double down and prove that we're right, even when people are showing us that we are wrong. But that's not humility. That's not the humility that Saul showed. And that's not the humility that Jesus showed in the way he lived on the earth and interacted with people. So let's try this week to be a little humble and admit nicely when we are wrong. Think you can do that with me? I think you can. All right. See you guys next week. Bye.